Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Music Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to my subscribers. If you are not a subscriber, please consider hitting that button so I can bring you great guests like the one I have today, Miss Siân Greenaway. Siân is a singer and flautist based in Birmingham, England.
That's
Many
right.
of you know Siân from maybe a 7-year stint with hard rock band Alunah, but she has since moved on and is now the driving force behind a catchy and energetic new project called Bobbie Dazzle. Bobbie Dazzle just released a new record called Fandabidozi, and we're going to say that a bunch of times on Rise Above Records, and Siân is here to tell us about it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And what was the name of that record?
Fandabidozi.
And Babbidozi. And it is just that. And like I was saying a couple minutes ago, I this hit my desk and I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know you and your work. But it's colorful, it's bright, it's not reflective of a lot of stuff that we're getting in the world today. It's a fun thing to look at, and then I put it on, and it was just as fun to listen to. It's really, really a great retro fun record. Um, when you were doing this, I mean, was this something that, because you come from Alunah, it's a little bit of a darker, heavier thing. This is not that. Was this something you've always wanted to do?
This is absolutely always something I've wanted to do. I didn't realize there was such kind of a gap in the market for it until I put my first single out. And obviously, being in Alunah, I'd been part of a certain scene for so long. And then when I wanted to do this, I've kind of realized there is no modern day retro 70s glam rock scene. Really, there's very few artists, which is such a shame because I wanted to do something like this because I honestly just wanted to put out something that was purely joyful, fun, happy. And that is to me what 70s glam rock is. And so I wanted to recreate that for, a 2024 audience. And it is just, I made it for myself first and foremost, but also kind of a tool for other people to use if they're feeling down in a dark time, that they can put this record on because it's really hard not to just smile when you're listening to these songs.
Absolutely, absolutely. As soon as I put it on, I said, "I love this. I need to talk to her." This is it was really, really great. It's a lot of fun. And you say did this for you. I know this project was born out of the loss of your sister. It was a dark time for you. You needed something to lift you up. And this has done it. I think for you. And
Yeah.
for a lot of us. And there's dark times out there, as we know. Was it difficult to get in that glam rock, more pop mindset uh, to do this record?
So I simultaneously put out an album with my last band at the same time as doing this. So I was writing them both hand in hand, and I felt like I really needed to do something more joyful, less dark and brooding, because I was in such anyone that goes through loss understands grief, and it's so hard to get up and carry on every day. And then creatively, when you're doing something which is also kind of on the more kind of negative side, it's not a good place to sit in. At least it wasn't a good place for me to sit. And I understand sometimes when you are in a low point, you can create something very dramatic and heavy, and that can be good for people. For me, it didn't feel good. So I absolutely needed to do this to take myself out of the grief. And it started off as a distraction, but then it just became this, like I say, a tool for me to get through my grief. It really took me through it. And I don't listen back to the album with any sadness. It's just so positive for me in so many different ways. And I'm just really happy now, honestly.
Oh, that's wonderful. It really is. And how can it, again, how can it not be? It's just a great fun record. Um, that Now the Alunah record that you talk about is Fever Dream. released September 20th. That's out there too. And I love what you do with them. Was that part of the reason for leaving that? Was it was just dark at a dark time and you just couldn't do that?
I mean, I'd lost the love, if I'm being honest. I did lose the love. I am proud of the album that I made. It wasn't the easiest thing to do. I'm proud because it was so tough to make, and I did manage to execute it well, I think.
Mm,
For me, creatively, I'd hit a brick wall with Alunah. I felt like there was nothing new to be done. I'd been 7 years, and there's a limit, I think, in that genre. There's really nothing kind of new to create, for me personally. So I didn't want to just put something out there for the sake of it in the future, because that wouldn't be honest of me. It would be letting the fans down, really, and I wouldn't be proud of the work that I was putting out. So yes, I've kind of changed because of that, but also I think I would have done this regardless of whether I'd stayed in Alunah or not.
okay. Yeah, yeah. And I'm so thankful you did. Uh, now I know Sweet is your band. It's the biggest influence for you.
Hell yeah.
And I just had Andy on the show actually, and what a charming fellow he is. He's a great guy. Lee Smith, Lee Small as well. So I love those guys.
Yeah.
They have a great new record called Full Circle. But that influence really shines through here. When you were making it, did you intend on getting some of that through? Was that, or does that just happen organically? Was this somewhat of an homage to Sweet?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try and deny like the influences that are there. I don't want to take the credit for everything. They are a huge influence to me, as are lots of other, glam rock people from the 70s.
Oh yeah.
I think you can't make a record this obvious and not call it an homage, because you can hear so many influences within there, and I have wanted to make them obvious because I want to say thank you to these artists that came before. And when it came to Sweet, my favorite record of theirs is Sweet Fanny Adams, and I listened to that a lot for the type of production that I wanted to do, the type of tones of guitars and drum sounds that I wanted to do. So they were my main influence when it came to creating this record.
Yeah, yeah, and we didn't get that here in America. I'm sitting just outside of Chicago in the States, and we didn't get Sweet Fanny Adams. We got Desolation Boulevard, and it's kind of a mix of a couple of things there. We get a little bit of the Sweet Fanny Adams record. I remember that record, and it was just huge for me as a kid. I remember my older brother spinning that thing, and it still lives with me. I still hear it in my head every day. It's crazy how great they were. Um, this record, a tribute to your father, passed away in 2003. You're 11 years old. Again, a difficult time. But there is a really special song on this record called Lightning Fantasy. And I read the story, and I just the tear came down, and I just love this. I have a little girl myself. She's not so little anymore, but so I know that bond is something, and this story was just so great. And if you could just give us that story of how this song "Lightning Fantasy" and your dad is part of this album.
It's honestly almost unbelievable. I have to pinch myself that this even happened, because I'm trying not to get emotional here, but losing my dad over 20 years ago, you don't expect to ever find anything of a loved one that close to you so long after they've passed away. But when my sister passed away, she had taken a lot of his belongings when she'd cleared his house out all those years ago. My sister was 12 years older than me, so she, had a lot of responsibilities when our father passed away.
Right?
So when I unfortunately had to clear her house out after she passed away, I stumbled across so many of his belongings, and some of those being his vinyl collection. My dad loved glam rock. He loved New York Dolls, Iggy Pop, like the grittier American side. But he clearly also loved Bob Dylan because I was opening up a Bob Dylan record of his, and all these pieces of paper fell out, and they were lyrics that my father had written, all in his handwriting.
Uh,
Um, Loads of sheets of paper, and the tears just were streaming down my face. I was crying, I was laughing, I couldn't believe what I had found. And he must have written them when he was about 17 years old. So I found lyrics to a song called Lightning Fantasy. So I decided to use those lyrics. So the opener of my album, Lightning Fantasy, is a collaboration between me and my late father.
that is just, I can't stop it. It's just, it is so wonderful. To have to be able to put a credit on your record to your father,
Yeah.
years later. Oh,
Yeah.
what a blessing! What a blessing!
Yeah.
So great. Well, let's talk about the name Bobbie Dazzle. Now, the term Bobbie Dazzler, British slang, right,
Yeah.
for something flashy and outstanding, and that's what this is, definitely. Um, how did you settle on the name? Is that a term that's used commonly for you, and you said that's defines what this is, was it inspired by something else?
So it's a term that I grew up with because it was like on the telly, on the television, on this antique. There was a show called Antiques Roadshow, and there's this
Oh.
man that presents it called David Dickinson, who is the most orange man you've ever seen. He is ridiculous, and he used to have really funny catchphrases, and he used to call things Bobbie Dazzlers. So that always stuck with me. And then when I was thinking about what to name, because Bobbie Dazzle is not a band, it's me as an artist.
Okay.
So I wanted to name myself something. And you've got Ziggy Stardust, there's like characters. We've got Gary Glitter, it's a similar kind of thing. I won't mention him too much though. And I wanted to do that for myself. I wanted to have a character for the stage, but is also myself, like a pseudonym. So I thought just Bobbie Dazzle, it just came to me. It's such a 70s saying, it's such a British saying. It really suits the glam rock theme. So yeah, I took Dazzler, turned it into Dazzle. Bobbie is a girl's name and a boy's name. So there you go.
Yeah, it's great, and it really does fit. I look at the record and I see the Bobbie Dazzle, big on the top there, and it's got that color and it's got that go-go boots and mini skirtish kind of psychedelic go-go girl thing. It is what it is. It's just perfect. It really is cool. The production, you mentioned the production a little bit earlier, and I want to point out one particular part of the production on Merry-Go-Round, the first line of the first verse. This was spectacular for me. And I think it's the second song on the record, so it was very soon. And I'm listening to this, and it starts with this production that's under the surface, and it's tin canish, and it's light and unproduced. And then the second line just comes in this full regalia of production, and it's what an impact that had on me. When I heard that, I'm like, now we're swinging. Now this song is just it's something. All those decisions are so major in the appeal of the record and the vibe of the record. How involved were you with the production? Did you produce this yourself? Who produced the record?
So the main person that produced it was a guy, he plays in my live band called Chris Dando. Some of the production happened as happy accidents. So that what you're describing there on Merry-Go-Round, the talkback mic that you have in the room where you're recording, and then obviously you've got your producer, your engineer speaking to you. He
Mhm.
accidentally left it on when he was recording something. And we played it
Wow.
back and we were like, it's this shitty, cheap microphone. And he was like, this could sound really cool. So then we stuck it on the other side of the room, and I sang on one side of the room whilst it was on the other side of the room. And we were like, it sounds so nasty and kind of fuzzy and not quite there. And then you bring everything in nice and clean and bright, and it has this
Oh,
such big uplift. So that was a happy accident.
wow. Wow. Incredible. But happy accident, yes, but you're in tune enough with the vibe and what
Yeah,
you're doing to recognize that this could be great. And it
yeah,
is. It really, these are the little things. These songs are great on their own, just played out, sung, played. But when you put those little things in, they just pop, and that's the beauty of this record is really great. We hear another song, Antique Time Machine. I hear a duet. I hear a male vocal in there. Who do we hear on that track?
So as accomplished as a musician as I am, I have needed a little bit of help on the way. And this guy who my main drummer and bass player that play live with me have another friend, and they're in many other bands. And this guy really liked what we were doing, and he was like, "Please, can I write you a song?" And when I first heard this, I was like, "No, I want to write all my own stuff. Like, go away." And then I was like, "Fine, I'll give it a listen." And it was Antique Time Machine, and I was blown away. And it was just the guitar parts, and he made a demo and I had a tune for it immediately. I was like, this is it's Meatloaf, it's Rocky Horror Picture Show, it's a bit Elton John. Like it just had so much fun going through it, and I loved it. And I thought if I'm gonna use, if we're gonna collaborate on this song, I wanted him to sing on it as well because he's a brilliant musician. So his name's Ad Barker, and he plays guitar and sings on Antique Time Machine.
And it's fun, again, another fun track. Like
Yeah,
you say, it's all that energy of that Rocky Horror Meatloaf,
yeah.
real theatrical thing. But to hear that male vocal with your vocal, really, really interesting. Again, one of those things that just takes a great song and makes it greater. To just have that uh, balance to a song is great. It's just so good. You're a flute player. Started when you were 8. Gave it up a little bit. Got a little boring for you maybe until you heard Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
But I know you're a big Focus fan.
Yes.
Kais Van Leer, a big influence on you. We hear some flute. We see a picture on the back cover of you with your flute. Um, how big was writing songs and incorporating the flute into these, because they're pop songs, but they get heavier, but they're pop songs. Was it more difficult because you played a little bit in Alunah, which for me would seem a little easier. It's deeper, it's darker. The flute parts might come a little easier. Is that true? Was this more challenging to incorporate the flute into this music?
This wasn't more challenging, mainly because this is innately my album. I had every choice of what I wanted to do on it. With Alunah, I had to really fight to be allowed to play the flute. They really didn't want me to do it. So with this, I was like, I'm going to put flute wherever I want. And so I wrote a song, and I knew it's not going to work on this song, but it will work on this song. So, I have these psychedelic parts like in Merry Go Round, and I was like, a flute's going to work. Flute's psychedelic. It's a bit proggy. It completely works in that section. So, not necessarily would work all the way through the song. Plus, I have to sing. I can't sing and play flute at the same time whilst being live. So I wanted to be able to recreate it, obviously, for a live audience. So I just wanted to sprinkle it in here and there, which I have done, and I will continue doing in the future.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you see yourself putting more flute parts in? And I think it's pretty obvious with at least with the picture. That flute is out there. It is present, very much a part of this. But it's light sprinkling. It is there. It's fun. It sounds great. And boy, I to go back to the Alunah album, Trickster of Time has your flute, and it's tremendous. I can't imagine it without flute. So it's
Well, fun fact, I wrote that entire song, guitar parts and everything, with my partner Erin, who's actually not in Alunah. So it's again, writing a song specifically to have flute on kind of needs to be the thing. You can't just jam it in somewhere just because you want to play it. It has to be for the right song.
yeah, and I love that song. It's fantastic. I see a lot of reviews for this record. Uh, every one of them positive, uh, which it's a little bit of a shock to me. I love the record. I love this music and I love the happiness of it and the retro vibe of it and all of the influences that come in it. And for me it's absolutely wonderful. Um but I see a lot of people. I would think a lot of people might, knowing what you did before as well, this isn't what we want from Sean, or this we've had this already. Why do it? Yeah, I don't want to hear that anymore. There's always those people. Did you feel like it was a risk to do a record like this?
The only thing I was worried about is because this album is so deeply personal to me, having it judged is terrifying because but I have to remind myself I didn't do it for anyone else. I just didn't. And I have to always remind myself that. I mean, luckily I've had like one review where it's been like, this is meh. But it's kind of just I think you have to be a really grumpy bastard not to like this album, honestly. And
Agree.
maybe some people that are disappointed that it's not Alunah. I think they also understand that it's just not for them. It's just not their kind of music. So they're not going to review it. And that is totally fair and understandable.
Yeah, and bravo to them actually, because I hate when somebody reviews a record and it's not something they like. Of
Yeah.
course, you're not going to like it. So yeah, but and I like you say, I can't imagine somebody not liking this, or at least getting a smile or a chuckle out of it. Because it's just fun. Uh, um, touring. You're touring. I'm coming out your way actually. I'm coming to London next week. And I'll be in Kent. And I'm hoping, I've always wanted to see the Sabbath Bridge in Birmingham. So huge Sabbath fan. So um but touring is difficult. I know for everybody overseas, especially to get the visas and stuff like that. It's pricey and it's there's a lot of logistics to it. Do you see yourself coming to the States, perhaps? Do you want to? What's touring look like for you?
So yes, I would love to come to the States. I'm very lucky that I have Rise Above Records supporting me because they are a fantastic label. And I know that if an opportunity comes up, that Lee Dorian would back me 100% to be able to go over there. So I will always look for that opportunity. It just has to be the right thing, you know? So
Yeah,
if the Darkness are listening and they want to take me over to the US,
there you go.
that would be a great one.
Wow, wouldn't that be fun? Those guys are a blast too. They were so much fun. I got the chance to hang with them a long time ago, and they were just a riot. And fun over the top. It would be what a great pairing that would be. Yeah, put the word out there for sure. I would love to see you here. I love your work. Thank you for doing it. You're such a joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh, yeah, please come back and visit. If you get a tour going, and we'll promote the tour and anything else that you have. I'd love to have you back.
I'll see you there.
All right. Thank you, son. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.